And welcome back to another edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I am Sean Meyers, joined by co-host Justin Lowery, the man of the hour. Justin, after a sabbatical, you were on assignment last week. I welcome you back. You have big shoes to fill. One Matt Vandriak was part of the biggest episode in history of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling, over 420 minutes viewed. You're going to have to top him. It's not going to be easy, Justin, but I know you're very excited to talk about WWE after an exciting week in your eyes, right? Wink, wink.
Thrilling.
Now, let's preface this by saying you flat out told me you did not watch Raw or SmackDown this week, and more times than not, at least going back as long as I've known you, you've always at least been well read on an episode if you miss it. Kind of talk me through your mindset. I know you know it's a busy time of year for you, but what you've kind of looked at and why you've decided not to maybe watch over the last handful of weeks.
Well, one, mostly the schedule, and two, I'm not going out of my way to really try because I know everything that's happening is pretty much in a holding pattern. It's June. Historically, WWE programming, even in its good years, slacks a little bit during the summer until it maybe builds up, I think for SummerSlam, and it drops again. So to me, it's always been a period of lull anyway. And I mean, there's just nothing to really be excited about right now. The wild card rule actually I thought hurt the product, not helped it.
Right.
I'm sick and tired when I do tune in from week to week. Honestly, I'm not tuning in for the whole show, but I swear to God, right enough to God, when I do turn in, it's Shane McMahon, like always on my TV or something related to that. And
that's not what you want?
No, that is not what I want. Shane McMahon going over 3 straight pay-per-views against what's supposed to be some of your top stars.
He's the best in the world, Justin.
Is questionable. Yeah, I hate that. They're struggling. I have no excitement for this. There's a couple guys I like, but even the Cesaro, Ricochet matches, they've been good, but I know who's going to win based on the prior week because it always has to be 50-50 booking. It's just blah.
So before we get into this past week in Stomping Grounds, which is the first time ever for that particularly named pay-per-view, and that might be an issue in itself. One thing that I did not get the opportunity to discuss really at all, but in particular with you, was Super Showdown, because while we're not going to get into much of a review of it, I know that you were really fired up about Undertaker and Goldberg, why that was even being promoted as a big match.
I was proven right.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm guessing you didn't watch any of that event, correct?
No, hell no. I would never.
Nor did I. Did you take a little bit of pleasure in seeing how bad that match was, or is it more like sad because those guys want to have a good match? You can't put it on them. They're just being booked in a position they shouldn't be.
Pleasure would probably be a nasty word. I mean, I think WWE got what they deserved, but I don't think it was going to be a good match to begin with. Clearly, Goldberg wasn't right. He hit his head off the post, because I did see that, on Twitter, that clip. And I mean, that didn't help. He was clearly loopy. I did see clips of that match, the botches, because it was just too funny not to watch. Neither man was safe. I mean, Taker could have broke Goldberg's neck. I mean, vice versa. I mean, it was nasty. I saw a lot of people on Twitter kind of put the blame on Goldberg, which I thought was unfair because I think he was loopy. Taker, I know as a figure is kind of godlike, but he was horrible too. And there was video going around of an interview he did in 2002 talking about how he wouldn't stay past his welcome, blah 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 blah. And I saw that he liked to tweet that somebody tweeted like, these people need to let the Undertaker rest, blah blah blah.
Right.
Well, I don't want to hear that because you choose to go. You can say no. Like, The Undertaker can say, Vince, I'm done. No. So you're taking the payday. So don't like a tweet saying, let me be. Just say you're done. You should have enough money. Your body's shot. The last couple matches Taker's had has been horrible.
Is Vince going to notice how bad this turned out and adjust accordingly, or is he going to continue to try to do things of this same nature just because that's what the fans over there seemingly, or at least the Prince, wants to see?
Saudi Arabia wants it. that's what they're going to get. I mean, he's all, they control pretty much the card, I think, for the most part. Whatever they want, they get.
So let's move on to, I guess, more recent stuff. And here's the issue. Super Showdown was billed as bigger than WrestleMania, whatever. It was ridiculous. We all understand that. But they did a pretty good job building towards some of those matches. They put a lot of time and effort building into Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler. And matches of that type, well, now we're seeing them again 2 weeks later. There's a lot of rematches for Stomping Ground and a lot of continuations of storylines. Now, you and I didn't see necessarily the payoff, if you will, with the matches at Super Showdown. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it just seems like with this Stomping Ground pay-per-view such a short time after that, everything's just too close together and they can't really build creative or fresh content.
Yeah, I don't think Vince cares. None of it's fresh. None of it's, honestly, I used to love Ziggler, and Ziggler's still decent in the ring. I can't stand him now. His promos, I just kind of laugh at him because...
I actually love them, Justin, and you know that you and I disagree on this.
I just look at him. I look at Ziggler now, and I laugh. I go, dude, you're not going to win the big one. You come around for a couple months, you get thrown in this feud, blah, 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 you always lose.
You're right. But that's not on Ziggler himself, right?
Well, no, but as a program, as a TV program, I'm not going to care. I don't care because I know how it's going to end. And the only reason he's here is because Kevin Owens said he wasn't going to Saudi Arabia. So, okay, then we'll get Ziggler. And they're just buying their time for the next thing. I remember when like R-Truth, well, actually that's more like the Corbin Rollins thing, when R-Truth fought John Cena for the title on a pay-per-view. Nobody actually thought Truth was going to win. That was just to stall time. I mean, could Ziggler win? Maybe a 3% chance. But
right.
Hell, the way it's going now, look for Shane to win the title.
And you make that joke, but there's people that think that could be a possible outcome.
Well, if that is an outcome, honestly, anybody that tunes in the next night needs their head examined. Just in protest, should just not watch the following night's episode.
Is Vince seemingly doing stuff just to tick off fans like you and I?
I don't think it's that. I think he actually thinks this is what's best for business to still align.
Based on what?
Well, he views Shane as an attraction.
Well, we know the McMahons always have increased ratings over the years. That being said, they're also
increasing them now.
Well, that's what if they're a special commodity. If they're on each and every week, then that attraction disappears.
The best and worst thing that's happened to wrestling is the evil Vince McMahon character. Because, yeah, it got hot. It really contributed to the Attitude Era. It was nice. It was good. But then it never stopped. There always has to be an evil McMahon authority figure in the picture. Whether it's Triple H, Stephanie, Shane, Vince, there always has to be that evil person. And it's run its course. It needs a break for years. Not months. I mean, we need a break for years.
Right. And there was a little while when Angle and Page were the GMs where things felt a little bit better, right? Especially with Page.
Well, that's what it was kind of nice years ago when Teddy Long was on SmackDown. He wasn't that evil GM. I mean, you got tons of tag team matches player and one-on-one with The Undertaker. But, I mean, other than that, at least it wasn't like, okay, we started out with the evil GM trying to hold the top face of the company down, blah, blah, blah.
And they've done that with Vicky and so on and so forth.
They use it to help springboard unless somebody lower on the card up the card. It's always the top face, whether it's Cena or Roman. You know, do it to Ricochet and make him move him up the card by association.
Well, we're going to talk about Ricochet. I want to go over Raw first. We'll jump into SmackDown and then get to previewing the event this Sunday. But for Raw, positive reviews from most people online, and that's a small step. It's a very low bar to clear, at least based on what you've read and what you heard, your reactions to the show on Monday, because it did feel a little different, and I'll sort of articulate how I thought it was better.
Yeah, I saw that people thought it was better, but as you said, a lot of people say that better doesn't mean it was great, or the bar's so low right now that if something's I saw somebody tweet, a writer go, well, it was mostly watchable. So if that's what grades is good right now, well, it was mostly watchable, then the ratings while they improved from the week before, are still like a 2.3. I mean, WCW Nitro was doing that in its 2000 when it was awful. So
right.
Don't act like that's something special. And they tried to promote it. I know Rollins and Bryan. That was the big.
Which, I mean, if you think about that, Justin, that is a big time matchup, especially for the the hardcore fans, the internet savvy fans, the people who love in ring work. I was surprised that they did that on Raw. I think, hopefully, we're gonna see stuff on Raw and SmackDown that feels more like pay-per-view quality stuff, because they are getting, at least they should be getting desperate, and I think you'll see matches like that more often.
Yeah, I don't know how desperate they are because the contracts have been signed. Now, if they still didn't sign anything, then I can see them desperate. But they're signed. They got the money. And, as long as Vince has advertisers. Now, if advertisers pull out, then he's going to be desperate. But no one's pulling out. I don't think Vince care less about the ratings. As long as people subscribe to the network, he doesn't care. Now, if 1 million people go and deactivate their account because they're not satisfied with the product, that's going to hurt his pocket.
Well, the network sells itself in many regards, regardless of how the weekly television is. So the people who enjoy what you get on the network are going to keep it for the most part.
If people get frustrated enough, that's the only way I think things will greatly change. Is it has to hit the pocketbook, and nothing's hitting the pocketbook, so Vince is going to be status quo.
And he's making a lot more money than he ever has before with other outlets, like the Saudi Arabia show.
Right, tons of money. I think they still have another 9 years on that contract.
They
so
do.
That show ain't going away anytime soon.
We've already proven that.
Line up and kill 100 Americans in a row. Vince would still show up the next day and do a show.
Sadly, I think that that's pretty much true. So as far as Raw, unlike a couple weeks ago where it was 55 minutes before the first match, and that match involved Shane McMahon against a jobber, they got a little bit quicker into the action, and they had a different type of feel to starting off the show. It was Elias singing, no long video packages, anything like that. It was just Elias in the ring. He starts singing. He shows his referee's outfit. I'm going to be the ref on Sunday for Corbin and Rollins. And then Rollins sneaks up, whacks him with a chair, beats the crap out of him. And then the subsequent 5 people in an elimination match all beat him up as well. And it quickly transitions into the first match of the night, which is a 5-man elimination to determine the number 1 contender to Samoa Joe's U.S. title. U.S. and IC go, oh man, they're so inconsequential. It's the U.S. So with that in mind, it gets off to a little bit of a hotter start, and it's not a McMahon out there, at least at the beginning of the show. You have Seth Rollins showing some aggression, so on and so forth, leading into the match. And I thought it was a decent match, but if you would have watched this week, Justin, with both Raw and SmackDown, you would have probably been scratching your head saying, why is everything either a elimination match or a best 2 out of 3 falls match? Because I think we had 2 elimination matches this week and 2 out of 3 fall matches with really no explanation behind any of them. That's what Ricochet, The Miz, Strowman, Cesaro, and Lashley were in. It was elimination. And Ricochet won this match, which is good. They actually had it set up pretty uniquely where the 2 heels were eliminated first and second, leaving the 3 faces, Strowman, as well as The Miz and Ricochet as the final 3. Ricochet winning, that's going to make a lot of people happy, and it sets up him and Samoa Joe, which should be pretty good. But I have some intel as to why they're doing these 2 out of 3 falls and why they're doing these elimination matches. And it's like you're just going to shudder when you hear this. So basically, they are doing stuff on TV that allows the action to stop during commercial breaks, so that the fans at home feel like they're not missing anything. So when you...
the fans in attendance?
Yes, exactly. They just sit there and watch the wrestlers just chill for about 3 minutes during commercial breaks. So what happens is they have this elimination match, okay? There's an elimination, they immediately go to commercial. When they come back from the commercial, the match basically restarts at that point. Same with the 2 out of 3 falls. There's a fall leading into a commercial. Nothing happens. They just basically sit there and regroup before the bell rings to start the second fall. And this is basically so that the fans at home feel like they're not missing any of the action and would be less likely to tune out. I don't know how that makes sense, but what to your point, it forces the fans in attendance to have a less enjoyable experience. It completely takes their energy out because let's say you get a really hot 5-minute sequence and then you say, all right, well, we're going to sit here and do nothing for the next 3 minutes until we come back from commercial. Then we'll start the next fall. These are the things that seem so tone deaf as ways to try to solve some of the ratings problems and some of the complaints. Like, how long can something like this last before they realize it's a terrible idea?
It depends. If it's Vince's idea, it could last for foreseeable future. One, if I'm a fan in attendance and that happens, that might be, I might look at you if we're there together and go, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I know we got a couple minutes. Or I'm going to go grab a beer or food.
And a couple minutes turns into 15 minutes
right.
before you're back.
And then, you're not, there's empty seats. And, attendance is, low at these events. They have a hard time selling tickets. So, but if I'm watching at home, what's my incentive to go to a show? Like, well, I want to see everything on TV. I don't have to worry about...
Right, no, that's a good point.
I'm not even missing any action. So, you have to entice, and whatever dark match they have is always awful. It's always, 7 minutes of this guy's half-assing it. So it doesn't really matter.
Bailey's chiming in as well, not a fan of this.
He's pissed off.
But isn't that something you could totally believe Vince McMahon, we got to figure out a way to solve people tuning out, because they have advanced metrics for all the ratings. So maybe they see a match that spans 2 or 3 segments. Maybe some small portion of the audience drops out after the commercial break when the match continues in the second segment. Well, how are we going to fix that? We won't have any action go on during the break. It's not solving the problem. It's just saying, well, this is what we are told the problem is, so we'll do this to make sure that doesn't happen again, instead of just saying we're going to get more people interested in watching our product.
Here's the thing. If it's good, people aren't going to tune out, period. If something's good, nobody's going to tune out. And I don't know how many people watch it live and how many people watch it on DVR, and they fast forward the commercials anyway. So I have no idea what those numbers are. They do. So that just doesn't seem very rational to me, and especially for the live audience. Because to me too, I'm more inclined to watch a show, even if it's just okay, if the audience is engaged.
I completely agree.
If you're watching a show that's in Des Moines, Iowa, and the crowd's just sitting there, I'm not engaged. It makes me well, they don't care. The crowd adds so much to a show. A crappy match can be made decent by, the crowd. A good match can be made great by the crowd.
And conversely, a good match can seem mediocre if the crowd's not into it. And trust me, 205 Live fans can relate to that, because that's an uphill battle every week.
In Pittsburgh, me and you went. We saw 205 Live, and I don't think anyone really said much during a 205 Live match. It was very quiet. Not maybe 50 people in the whole building maybe cared. A lot of people had no reaction.
Right. Something else that was interesting on Raw, and it totally feels like Vince McMahon trying to make a last-second Hail Mary attempt to keep Anderson and Gallows. They gave him a storyline. And the storyline is they're not motivated. They need to get back to the old Anderson and Gallows. AJ Styles was part of it, and I think AJ's still a little banged up, so they're using him in a creative role before he's back in the ring. Anderson and Gallows have done absolutely nothing. They've barely been seen. I will flat out say I wasn't a huge fan when they signed, and at least in the opportunities they had, they were okay. They were not great, but they clearly haven't been given a fair shake over the past year and a half. Do you get the same vibe? Vince is just trying to do this because he thinks this is maybe his only chance to re-sign him, is to make them seem important right before their contract is up?
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing. If he doesn't think they're worth anything, then why re-sign them? I wonder eventually they're going to run in. There's so much money, probably not, that they're getting in, but financial issues, because, they're offering these people 5-year deals now with tons of money to people that aren't even on TV, just because they don't want them going to AEW. Well, if you're going to give, Maria and her husband new 5-year deals worth a lot of money when
Did they resign?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I don't want to get on a tangent. So Mike Canales, Mike Bennett, I'm not a huge fan of him, but I will say like he has totally embraced being a 205 Live guy and is doing his best to make that show relevant. So it does seem like he actually cares at this point. So that's a good thing if you can get guys to at least buy into what they're doing, as opposed to a Dean Ambrose who just mentally checked out for 6 months. And you can understand that side of it too.
And honestly, they got to be nervous because seeing what Dean's done since he's left, other wrestlers got to be looking and go, I can do that. I can be him. Like he hasn't left the limelight in the wrestling community. He got a good deal with AEW. He's working over in Japan. Like other wrestlers who really like wrestling in their craft, they're going to be like, I can take an opportunity. I can go do this.
And Anderson and Gallows, that's where they made their name, was in Japan.
Oh, yeah. And let's be honest. I think they probably have a job waiting for them in AEW, right? Like, I would assume being friends with the Young Bucks and stuff, worst case is they could easily go back to Japan like that and be on top of the card like they were when they were
But people thought Nakamura would do that, and I believe Nakamura's sticking around.
Well, it depends. I think Nakamura's sticking around because they paid him so much money. He said, screw it, I'll take the money and this half-ass it. But you're never going to get what you thought you were going to get in Nakamura. I guarantee you when he does have matches, they'll be okay because he's just complacent.
But he's not going to kill himself at this point, right?
No.
And that's funny because that's the storyline that they're using with Anderson and Gallows.
Right, but they're just going to be complacent. That's what's going to happen. And, Dean Ambrose could have taken all that money and been complacent.
And just gone out there and did lines like, oh, you people stink, and so on and so forth.
Right. He came on the podcast and said that he was depressed every Monday knowing he had to go to work. And apparently there's other wrestlers that feel that way. And there was rumors that Sasha was going to come back, read his comments and goes, that's how I feel. No, I'm apparently she's going to sit out her contract and pull a Neville. I don't know. Rusev is constantly complaining that he doesn't have.
Oh, yeah, he tweets all about it.
And I swear sometimes him and Lana tweet, they're trying to get fired. And I read that people are trying to get fired, but they won't fire anybody because they know that's what they want, and they don't want them jumping ship, in time for October.
And I would never want to see people go to that level because that's just unprofessional,
Well, I do say if you sign a contract, you should honor it.
Right. But, I mean, they weren't forced to sign anything. It's your point about The Undertaker, Justin. If they're under contract, even if you think the booking is terrible, you're treated poorly, you have to at least keep it at a minimal as professional.
Right. But also, in most jobs, if you want to quit, you're able to quit. If somebody there wants to go in and hey, Vince, you haven't used me in 4 months. You clearly, I'm not, on your radar. I want my release. Like Luke Harper asked for his release, and Vince said no. Like, why? Like, he's 39. He's not even he's not going to break through or something somewhere. Like, why? You're just being petty. You're being an asshole, Vince. That's what you are.
Right. But I will say people also understand that. I mean, that people have known that's what Vince McMahon's all about for decades, right?
Yes. Well,
okay. Last thing I wanted to touch on weekly television, on SmackDown, I thought there was some good stuff, but it was basically a lot of the similar concepts to Raw. There was an elimination match. There was thrown together tag team matches with The New Day, Kevin Owens and Sammy, so on. I thought Bayley and Alexa Bliss had a really nice exchange. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this being a match because Alexa is on Raw. Bayley is a SmackDown champion. I don't like that one bit, but I thought their exchange was pretty good. And we've always said Alexa Bliss, what she maybe lacks in ring, and I think she's average, solid in ring, but not great. She makes up for it by being tremendous on the mic and just being so good at everything else. But it seems like Bayley's sort of getting to that next level, and I think as crappy as it is to say, she's better off without Sasha, in part because I think Vince is pushing her now just to kind of get back at Sasha. But it is a new Bayley, no doubt. She's way better than she has been the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't say much on that because, like I said, I didn't watch it. But in regards to SmackDown, I read, so tell me if I'm correct, Roman Reigns and Finn were not on SmackDown. Am I correct?
That is correct. Now, the thing with Roman that's backwards is he was on Raw extensively.
Right. But so was Finn. I saw that Finn and Roman were on Raw.
I don't even remember seeing Finn, so if he was on Raw, it wasn't memorable.
If he was. If you're a SmackDown superstar.
Finn hasn't wrestled a match on SmackDown probably in 2 months. He had one brief appearance promoting him and Andrade.
Like, even in Roman's case, you're a SmackDown superstar. You're on Raw, but you don't show up to SmackDown. Again, makes no sense to me.
Justin, before we get into the Stomping Grounds prediction, I want to introduce a new segment, and this is going to be a very quick-hitting segment, but I think over the course of weeks and months, it'll be interesting. You and I both agree WWE has a lot of work to do, and some of the changes are going to take a lot of time and effort. Some of them could be pretty simple and pretty straightforward, immediate results. So I think each week we'll dedicate about a minute each to suggesting one idea, very simple, as to how WWE can improve its current product. So I will start. I will give my idea, then you can chime in with yours, and then we'll go forward in upcoming weeks as well. So here's my idea on how WWE can improve its product. The wild card rule has been a miserable failure. As Justin just pointed out, you have people appearing on Raw who are SmackDown superstars, and they're not even wrestling on SmackDown. What you're also doing is making fringe TV competitors completely invisible. If you're near the bottom of the roster, if you will, you're not getting any time now because people that are on Raw are getting time on SmackDown and vice versa. What they should do is keep the wild card rule but change it drastically. And it will be a one-person wild card rule. And that is not just the opposing Raw or SmackDown brand, but the wild card can come from any promotion in WWE, which means 205 Live superstars are eligible, NXT, NXT UK. But apply this to every show under the umbrella so that on NXT, you have each week, if they want to, one wild card. It could be a main roster person. It could be from 205 Live. And they've already done stuff like this. We've seen that they've used Drew Gulak and they've used people like that. Same with NXT UK. Maybe have Tyler Bate wrestle a match on SmackDown unexpectedly. You have one person and make that surprise person seem significant each and every week, but no more back and forth with 10 different Raw people on SmackDown and vice versa. That is what I would do for a solution to make WWE better. Justin, the floor is yours.
Stop scripting the promos. Let the wrestlers do their own promos. Even if you want to give them bullet points, just make sure you hit this topic and then just go. Let the wrestler feel their own character. Let them sink or swim on their own. These awful scripted promos do nothing. They do nothing for the wrestler. They do nothing for the audience. They're awful. The jokes that Vince usually throw in there are awful. Let the wrestlers do their own thing.
When do you think that changed?
Vince, at some point, they stopped, trusting guys, and I'm
early 2000s, mid 2000s, maybe.
Yeah, probably. And there might be certain people that, like Lashley, you don't want to, or maybe actually, I don't know. Clearly, the scripted promos that they write from don't work. Give him a shot. Like, maybe he's better off the top of his head.
Can't be much worse.
Right, and main event guys, you let them say. I bet you Roman, if they never would have scripted a promo for him, would have gone over so much more if he just would have done his own promos. I guarantee you.
I agree with you. Both those ideas I really think would make a big difference, and again, it's not going to happen probably, but I think it's fun to at least have you and I play the role of Vince McMahon, at least for a day. Let's quickly jump into Stomping Grounds. Not much anticipation. I personally won't be able to watch it live. It's going to be a few days till I catch it because I'm going to be away. But it's a lot of rematches. Let's run down some of the matches. We won't go into a lot of detail. Seth Rollins, Baron Corbin, Universal title. My biggest fear is that Brock Lesnar becomes a world champion again. I would say my second biggest fear is that Baron Corbin beats Seth Rollins for the Universal title. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm picking Seth Rollins. That being said, Rollins did defeat him a couple weeks ago. I could see Corbin maybe winning, but I don't see him winning the title. So I am picking Seth Rollins, and I really, really hope that's the end of Baron Corbin in the main event for a long, long time.
I think Rollins is going to win, but honestly, I want Corbin to win because I just want to see it burn. I just want to see Twitter burn.
It would be fitting with Seth Rollins that it would burn down with a Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
We both agree Corbin is perfectly serviceable, but pushed 10 times more than he should be.
Corbin is a good mid-level act, high mid. Occasionally thrown into a main event scene, but quickly drop. But honestly, having a championship match on 2 back-to-back pay-per-views is a joke.
No doubt, it certainly is a joke, and hopefully it does not become more of a joke. A match that I'm excited for, although the steel cage Oh, by the way, I do want to wrap up. Special guest referee for that match. Is it going to be someone lame, or is it going to be something maybe interesting?
It'll end up being lame, or end up being like Brock Lesnar or something.
Which, I don't know, how do they book with Brock? I don't even know what they would do there.
I don't know, because then they could tease like both, like whoever wins, Brock's there ready to pounce.
Right. I don't see him actually like doing the job of a ref, which would just make the match even more ridiculous. Yeah. All right. Kofi and Dolph. I'm interested in this match because I think these guys can absolutely kill it. It's a steel cage match, and the problem I have with that is sometimes great in-ring workers kind of have to change their style and make it a more slow-paced, vicious, taking its toll type of match. I think Kofi retains. Dolph, as we mentioned, was just thrown in here to replace Kevin Owens. But I do think it could be a good match, and I am excited because I did not see their match over in Saudi Arabia. I'm sure it was pretty good. I hope this one is good as well because both these guys have always been terrific workers, even though they probably didn't get as much credit as they deserve in that regard.
Yeah, I'm going with Kofi. I think his reign will continue. I don't know how much longer, but I don't think he's going to drop it to Dolph. The cage match, that tells me there's going to be a pretty crazy spot. Either one of those guys are going to perform it because both have. So all that tells me that we might have 1 or 2 pretty intense spots, and the rest of the match will probably be above average, but not great because, like you said, the cage is a factor. But it's going to be remembered more for the spots.
Let's talk about the women's matches. We'll begin with Raw. Becky Lynch against Lacey Evans. Yes, much like the other 2 matches we've talked about, this is a rematch. Becky won the first time around. I'll let you lead this one off, Justin.
Becky Lynch, because Lacey Evans has been proven not ready. When she sandbagged Bayley a couple weeks ago in the Bayley to Belly, she's not good. I know Vince loves her because she's a blonde, and Vince loves blondes. But Becky, easy call.
I agree, and I think it has to be Becky Lynch for the reason that they put so much time and effort into building Becky up to win the titles in the main event of WrestleMania. She's lost one already, and that's not that big of a deal because up until a couple days before, the SmackDown title was never supposed to be involved with Becky Lynch. But after she won that, they have her drop that one. Okay, whatever. If she loses the Raw title in a couple of months, doesn't it kind of just negate all of the time and effort that they put into it, especially losing to someone who's not a very legitimate challenger at this point?
It feels like some of the luster has already worn off from the WrestleMania feud.
And I think that the whole women's division has dropped off.
Yes, and by dropping it to Lacey friggin' Evans, that in itself would just be horrible. Horrible.
I talked a little bit about Alexa and Bayley, the good promo that they had on SmackDown. Alexa has really struggled through injuries. For that reason, Justin, I think it's hard to see her winning the title. I think Bayley is starting to get some momentum. I am picking Bayley for this match, but Alexa, to a lesser degree, is kind of like Charlotte, where it's tough to bet against her because she always seems to win those big matches and always gets those surprise victories, whether it be Money in the Bank, knocking off people that seemingly were invincible. Ultimately, however, I am going with Bayley in this match, and I think Alexa's injury concerns are a big factor.
Yeah, I'm going with Alexa because I feel like on a crappy pay-per-view, they have to have at least one title change hands, and I think this is maybe the best option. Nikki Cross interfering, something funny happens, and Alexa cheats her way, to a victory. Doesn't mean she's going to hold it long, but that's what I see. I maybe Nikki Cross get involved and just for sake of having a title change hands, Alexa Bliss.
And I think you gave a good explanation there, but I want to quickly touch on Alexa and Nikki. This has been great because Alexa plays this so perfectly. And as much crap as we give WWE for their horrible storytelling and their writing and everything, I think that they are really going to, by the end of this, make fans care about Nikki Cross. And when her and Alexa finally blow up because Nikki realizes what's happening, I think it's going to be a good payoff. That being said, when does this happen?
Well, I was going to say, wouldn't the payoff be Alexa's the champion, and then Nikki takes the belt from Alexa? Wouldn't that be part of the payoff?
If they weren't both on Raw.
Well, they could just show up on SmackDown and we don't need to be explained a word about it. I mean, if Alexa wins the title, she's clearly now on SmackDown because she's a champ.
Well, but you say clearly. They've never explained it, and that's what... Alexa should not be challenging for the SmackDown title.
Well, right. Nothing makes sense. They're not going to explain it. Just deal with it. Just take it, Sean. They know what's best.
You're right. Roman and Drew, not a lot of excitement when it unfolded at WrestleMania. And again, it was a very basic match at WrestleMania. There's nothing wrong with it, but it was the time of the show where fans just mentally sort of checked out. Roman's been getting some good cheers recently, and that's good to see. But going against Shane McMahon, going against Drew McIntyre, people aren't going to cheer for them. This feels more like it's a Roman versus Shane feud than Roman versus Drew McIntyre, which makes this match a little insignificant. Your pick for who comes out on top in this one?
Roman, and like you said, you feel like it's Roman versus Shane. Well, who's Shane feuding with? Roman or The Miz? Or both? Hell, Shane's just feuding with everybody because he's the best in the world.
He is. There's going to probably be at least some attempts at interference, whether it be Elias or Shane or whatever. But I do think Roman Reigns wins this one. And you can't have Roman lose twice in the span of 2 weeks, right? I mean, he lost to Shane McMahon. You can't have him lose to Drew McIntyre because Vince just will never want his top guy going into a losing streak like that. So I think this one's pretty easy to pick. Run down the other matches real quick. And Justin, you just sent me a text that said podcasting.
Yeah, it was not supposed to be to you. Yes.
We are podcasting. All right. U.S. title match, Samoa Joe against Ricochet. This one was kind of late to the party. Ricochet won the match on Raw. I'm going with Ricochet because, much like you said, there needs to be a title change. This is my pick for a title change. It'll get some fans excited. Samoa Joe's perfectly fine as a champion, but Ricochet is, a rising star, and I think someone that they are trying to promote. So I go with Ricochet in this one.
I'm going with Samoa Joe just because, they've been 50-50 with Ricochet's booking now. Joe just got the title back after not even, winning it back.
It was handed to him.
They're like, here, you just have the belt back. It's just Joe. I think the feud will continue, and maybe Ricochet wins it down the line, but I'm going to say Joe.
Tag team titles on SmackDown, Bryan and Rowan. Yes, they are the champions against the number one contenders, Heavy Machinery. I saw a stat that said Heavy Machinery has won its last 9 matches on TV. So you say, okay, well, they do deserve this match if you go off of wins and losses. That said, it's never felt like they're a credible challenger. But Bryan and Rowan are kind of a thrown together champion as well. Despite that, I still think that the champions retain. It's got to be Daniel Bryan and Rowan.
I agree. Bryan and Big Red.
Yes. Another thrown together tag team match with little implications. The New Day, which of course is Woods and Big E, against Owens and Zayn. If you're keeping track, Owens and Zayn aren't even on the same show. They're just a tag team via the wild card. You know what? I actually had a hard time with this one, Justin. I'll let you go first, and then I'll kind of respond to your pick.
I think I went with the New Day. I just went with the New Day. I didn't really have a reason. I said, Sammy and, Kevin could easily win, but, I don't know. I feel like the New Day's pretty high in Vince's, mind. So the New Day.
I went back and forth because for Big E returning, they probably want to give a little boost to him.
Right.
Typically, when someone comes back, they get a couple wins. I think you could see that with Big E being the difference in this one. However, when I look at Owens and Zayn, they need victories. Like they're sort of like a joke, and they've lost, I think, twice in these random thrown together matches this past week. So I think that they probably need it more if you want to establish those guys as anything significant.
My favorite part will probably be Sammy's walk to the ring.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's loving his role, which is really, if you go back to it, how the New Day initially got over. They just embraced being ridiculous and goofy. Sammy's a heel, so it's a little different, but
remember, the New Day started off as heels too.
Yes. I really enjoy him and Kevin. They're consummate entertainers. Even if their matches are insignificant, you can always look forward to it. Last one, the 205 Live title cruiserweight champion Tony Nese goes against Tozawa and Drew Gulak. I am expecting a new champion, Drew Gulak, just because he's been around a long time. He's never held the title. Tony Nese doesn't seem like a standard bearer champion like Cedric and Buddy were before him. Is someone that very easily could lose it quickly. So I'm going with a new champion, and I think Drew Gulak, the heel, is probably the choice for me.
I went with Tony Nese because, damn it, I don't watch 205 Live. Usually the champions keep the belt for a while. So I'm like, all right, Tony Nese it is.
And because of his 8 abs, right?
But he does have awesome abs.
There's no doubt about it. Which you would think, based on Vince McMahon's past history, that's reason enough for him to be a champion, right?
I think Vince, has a picture of those in his bedroom.
Let's take a look at our predictions. Justin and I agree Seth Rollins, Kofi Kingston, Becky Lynch all retain. We disagree. Bayley versus Bliss. I'm going with the Hugger. He's going with Little Miss Bliss. We pick Roman Reigns to win. We differ on the U.S. title. I think Ricochet's the new champion. Justin believes Samoa Joe retains. Bryan and Rowan, we know that they're going to win. And then we disagree on the tag team match of the New Day, Owens and Zayn. I'm going with Owens and Zayn. Justin's going with the power of positivity. Lastly, I go Drew Gulak. He goes Mr. 8-Pack, Tony Nese. Real quickly, Justin, because we've reached about our time limit, anything else that jumps out, whether it be All Out, Selling Out, or anything in the world of professional wrestling?
I just can't wait till October so we can talk about AEW on here on a weekly basis.
Are you planning on checking out the events prior to that? Because I know they have, Fyter Fest, and that's not on pay-per-view, right? So it's a little confusing if you're not an avid fan to follow how everything's unfolding.
It's free. It's you can stream it for free, and then then the next pay-per-view is August 31st.
That's All Out, right?
All Out, which is sold out in 15 minutes.
And that's the one people are thinking CM Punk.
Well, I don't. He's not coming back, everybody. People need to leave that go. He's 40 now anyway. It is in Chicago. If there would ever be a way to get him back, it could be that. But let him go, guys. I hate when wrestling fans hold on to something. Just let it go. I'd rather them get AJ Lee. That would be exciting for me.
Well, I think we could both sign up for that. All right, Justin. I appreciate it. Good to see you back. I know you're a busy man, but glad we could make it work. Will you be watching Stomping Grounds?
Sunday night, I think so. It will at least, a worst case, be on the iPad. So,
okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Fair enough. I will, as I said, probably catch it maybe on Tuesday. I'm going away for the weekend, so won't be able to watch it. First time in a while I haven't been able to watch a pay-per-view live. All right, you can always follow us on 5-Star Pod Wrestle. We got the Instagram. There we go. Instagram handle up there as well. It's 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. Press the subscribe button down below so you could subscribe to our channel. Check out all the videos, whether they be live or archived. We're going to do probably another live episode upcoming in the next week or two. And once again, you could check us out each and every week here on the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. We'll see you same time next week.
Oh,